Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Eli, 10th man, father of a stolen child, and I can't see my screen because the Skype page is in the way. We've also got Neil, 10th man, Chocolate Saying, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Hey, Nathan.
Yo.
Good morning, all.
Good afternoon.
Yo.
Hello.
How are you? How are you? St.
Very well.
Cleanser behaved today.
Who's going to be well behaved?
Well, I want to make an argument. I don't know if you guys want to run through the housekeeping,
boy.
but
Well, we'll start with
man, we were onto something good.
any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon.
Oh, man.
That's a negative.
Not a dome, but yes, you need a container.
Oh, man.
You're gonna need 3 containers at least to demonstrate that.
I'll give you
I
a
don't know,
container,
for
but I'm
some
not.
strange reason.
Okay, does a
all the gas
container have a
laws-
shape to it?
For some strange reason, all the gas laws that we know about presuppose a container, as said by certain Glober. But why do you think that is?
Because you need a container.
Oh shit! Look at that.
There's no gas law that says we need a dome.
No.
Well,
Okay,
that was my
anything about a
point.
dome.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Well, that was erroneous. That was erroneous, but Gio did want to say something. Go ahead, Gio.
Right, doesn't
Please, if you
that
don't mind.
container have a shape?
Hello, guys.
It doesn't have to have any specific uniform shape, no. I mean, it's going to be physical and have a shape to it in the respect that it's got to be physical and have parameters that give it containment. But, you know, does it have to be... Oh, God, do I have to say this? Dome-shaped? No, it doesn't have to be dome-shaped.
Can I also give my
Well,
2 cents
if
there
I-
with that? Sin cleanser. Thank you. So
I was going to compliment Nathan, but go ahead.
So I'm gonna ask an array of questions. Well, it may be only 3, but is flat a shape or is it a description? Gio.
Aspect.
As a
Aspect.
description.
Aspect.
Okay, well, seeing that
aspect, however you wanna
we
put it.
can't see the entire Earth, we can't describe it as an object because, well, we haven't seen the whole thing, correct?
Correct.
Would it be reasonable to say you haven't seen the structure of the containment either? Therefore, though it could be, well, though it has to be a shape, we wouldn't know what shape that is.
You don't know what I
Correct.
don't know.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Right, but we can use the sextant to say, well, the part that we do utilize seems to be flat. Can we say that?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
No further questions.
Not seems to be, must be for that tool to work.
I was trying to give you a little bit. There you go. Must be.
So it demonstrates that the sky is parallel with the ground?
That's correct also, yes.
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
cool.
Appears to be. Careful with your words.
Sure.
Yeah, the apparent position of the stars, not the container.
Yeah, and the apparent position of those stars is useful to derive 90 degrees when you measure your angle to them from any position on the flat plane we dwell atop.
But how could they
What-
call it?
uh,
How could they call it a celestial sphere
Like,
Exactly.
if it was a
I was
sphere,
gonna ask.
then the stars should be almost curving on this periphery. And if they're actually starlight located billions of light years, there'd be no curving to assume a celestial sphere in the first place.
Yeah, they hijacked.
want my
I thought we
take
covered
on
this.
it?
Didn't we cover this on the pre-show? They've hijacked perspective. The fact that they've done it in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator doesn't mean they're not going to employ the exact same trick when they're doing it with the stars. You know, the linear relationship that they translate with R that Adam was detailing a couple of days ago is a good example of that.
You want my take on it?
Their Earth curve is still just a slope. Like they're only arguing for a slope.
Certainly when you look at linear
But,
perspective or the stars in terms of their descriptions for them, other than their begging the question translation that doesn't work, inserting R and starting at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth when you describe it in degrees. No, you've got a slope, as you put it. You know, you've got a linear relationship in terms of
That's
what
like
you see into the distance.
That's like
also.
what Kiwi. Go ahead.
Hold on. 10th man was trying to get a word in there. Go ahead, 10th.
Yes, we just read a citation that said it's an imaginary sphere. They even admit it's an imaginary sphere. They use it because they're ballers. Now, what Nathan answered is the correct answer, which is perspective. See, the perspective is as you get further away, and we know what happens as you get further away. That's our argument. And so that what they're using it for is to kind of get rid of perspective and say, this is the way it is.
Mm.
Meanwhile, the Globers
Yeah.
are now telling us, perspective, guys. Hey, you guys forgot about optics.
No, that's the anti-flat earthers that are telling us, oh, perspective, and we welcome to them flat earth when they do so.
Well, I noticed Nathan called out once, and I think it's one of Nathan's best arguments on this show. And I know a lot of the panel members also echo that opinion. Is that the Muppet Vision worldview really sneaks in a whole bunch of different aspects of reality that they can't talk you into based on perspective. So they have to sneak in a lot of their worldview through the Muppet Vision trick kind of thing. And that's it's good to call that out, though.
Yeah, they've started doing it with double team. So they've got Rumpus and Bev, and Rumpus is insisting that a Muppet Vision representation with an R assumption is going to be utilised for every explanation, and it must be accepted thereafter once presented. Then he takes a sidestep as George Netanyahu comes in and starts talking about optics, very separate from the optical exclusive Muppet Vision that Rumpus is insisting on using. So George discusses the optical elements. Rumpus insists on begging the question with Muppet Vision. It's like it's very amusing to watch.
Well, if I could reel it back when you were talking about linear functions, right? Shout out to Kiwi for this though, and 10th man might be able to point this out as well. So the angle to Polaris will change 1 degree every 69 miles, right?
Yeah, this is a little crossroads, but yeah, go ahead.
So it's a linear. Isn't the vertical drop 8 inches per mile squared?
That's correct.
Are squared functions linear?
Yes, that's correct. They give you a suggestion at this point. They'll give you a suggestion that it's still moving around a sphere because, well, degrees, right? We're not going to rehash this. We covered this extensively the other day.
Yeah, they're just giving you a slope. That they didn't account for refraction. We found out that they didn't know how to account for refraction with Al-Biruni. So I don't know how they can claim that refraction does this or that if they never even implied it to begin with when they first made their claim.
No. Careful again. When you say Al-Biruni hasn't accounted for it, he can't and must not be considering refraction. He's measuring geometry. So it's absurd to say, well, did he factor it in? No. He's measuring geometry, right? That's what he's supposed to be doing. Now, the fact that he had to get the height of the mountain off a flat plane to begin with is just so epic. I mean, I'm so happy when Adam told me that. I couldn't quite believe my ears when he highlighted it about a week ago. But yeah, so even to assume he's measuring geometry, that's not refraction, that's geometric measurements he's taking. He had to assume that it was on a flat plane first to get the height of the mountain. Epic.
Well, Kiwi once said, and he said in an after show one time, he said that, you know, when the ballers say Bindi Crane refraction when it comes to the black swan, that's already been accounted for in the argument. When you start saying refraction, you're appealing to their model, which implies a radius value. So it's like another level of genius, I think,
Well,
in terms of the argument.
I find it quite amazing when they invoke refraction 7/6R with standard refraction, or they would say extreme refraction, but it still will not relocate that physical sphere edge, no matter what refraction they try to invoke.
It's not about it being capable of relocating it. The moment it's being relocated, it stops being geometric. Now, their assertion relies upon tangent points, having a straight line to that tangent point, and that tangent point being their Earth curve. So the moment they even attempt to refract it, regardless of the fact that they utilise, paradoxically, the R value that needs it to be geometric to be measured, and then utilised in 7/6R terrestrial refraction in its standard form, or extreme refraction if you want to change the value, again based on R and based on having a physical tangent point horizon, i.e. Earth curve supposed to be the horizon, tangent point for your geometry that you're asserting when you say it blocks things. Yeah, that all goes to hell the moment they say, oh, it's refracted. So not a geometric tangent point then. Bye-bye globe model. End of argument.
Yeah, as soon as I said that before.
And now
as soon as they invoke refraction. Oh, go ahead.
And now they ask us, why would you expect to see this geometric horizon that Al-Biruni was supposed to be calculating and measuring? This is the point that we've reached, guys.
Which is roughly translated as, why would you expect to see Earth curve? That thing I said physically blocked things in the distance based on this geometry and having a tangent point to it. Why would you expect to see that tangent point to it? I claim block boats and buildings because you told me it blocked boats and buildings. That's why. What, you're telling me it doesn't and it's refracted? Well, then it's not geometric, and that's the end of your geometric Earth curve assertion with a physical horizon to block things. Bye-bye, globe model.
Yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap for all that.
That's pretty good. That is pretty good.
That's why I kind of like when they say refraction.
Their model, if you look up what Andrew Thomas Young, he says there's sinking refraction and limiting refraction. Why is it that the difference between those opposites is a flat Earth? Like, you have both opposites ends of what he would call the refraction over a globe. It equates to what you would see over a flat Earth, incidentally.
Whoa.
Yeah, Temp, go ahead, Temp.
Whoa. Why don't you read the disclaimer of Andrew Thomas Young? All his refraction studies were done over a plane. And then he switched it with geometric considerations to fit his globe model.
Get him, Ken.
I was just going to say it, too.
Everything's coming up flat these days. I even found a citation from NASA talking about satellites using a flat plane just fine. It's insane. It's over.
Oh, that's great.
Well, it's the Bindi Crane. Okay, I'm pretty sure every flat earther here has encountered, the black swan has got the Bindi Cranes. Right? Okay, that's fine. But having talked with QE, that's accounted for. That's a part of what we should expect them to be even responding with. Right.
Welcome to the party.
Because then they're gonna beg the question, and probably in numerous. Go ahead.
Ober, who really tried to assert that, as far as I know, and like the other ones just latched onto it because they all realized they didn't have any geometry to their sphere edge. So all of a sudden it's like, no, refraction. That's how it proved the radius. Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Didn't you need the radius to figure out your refraction? Your terrestrial refraction?
Yeah.
I'd like
And
to
they
point
don't-
out what Elijah said about NASA and their documents. I found an old newspaper from Trove.com, and it talks about Dr. Lipsy and the French engineer who finally did the job. They were talking about assuming that the earth was flat and conducted a canal accordingly. And the consequence of this in the Act of Parliament and was passed the Railways, Powers, and the Construction Amendment Act 1870 and has not since been repealed. So they just assumed the earth, they just went with a flat earth when they start building. I can give you that, Elijah, if you want it.
Yeah, that's the Suez Canal. The English engineers actually rejected the tender to begin with because they would have to account for curvature, and they didn't really know how to do that, so they rejected the tender. And then the French came along.
Hold on.
And actually
Hold on.
did the
Hold
job
on.
assuming a
Hello,
flat earth.
hello. Can you not hear almost exactly describing this? Go ahead, almost exactly.
I was just saying, after the English rejected the tender, the French came in and did the job, assuming a flat Earth. And because of these disputes, the English Parliament, passed an act, which I'm trying to get a hold of the text and documents. I can't find it anywhere. I can find the record of it, that it does exist, but can't find the
Hold on.
the debates.
Don't tell us about what you haven't found. Just tell us what the act is and why you would want to find it. Go ahead.
Well, the act allegedly forbade any allowance for curvature when building things like railways and any construction, which is pretty funny. They forbade it.
That gives credence to what Brian's been saying about if you have a curved radius, then you would have a larger diameter circle that they don't account for. And I did question him. I was like, well, curved paper, flat paper, isn't it the same? And he explained to me no. And now what you're saying, it seems that other people that are actual engineers are like, listen, bruh, I'm paying for this flat piece of material right here. I don't know what you're on about, but I'd like a receipt for this, please.
Yeah, they passed the act so no more engineers would reject tenders based on that claim, and it was allegedly passed in 1870.
Hopefully we'll have some sleuths. Hold on. Hopefully some sleuths in the audience will dig this out if it exists, and it'll come to surface, or it'll be pointed out that it's a myth, or whatever. We'll find out, I'm sure.
Right. I tag Eli with it. It's Trove.com. Trove.gov. So it's in the main chat.
Just on what Eli said there, that is if they're taking a chord through, if they're pre-assuming a flat by putting a chord through their part of their globe, then the arc is more than the chord in distance. So it doesn't work on the surface. They could, if they were going to build and assume curvature, it just won't work because it's just not curved. That's the bottom line. Trying to assume curvature, you'll end up going down underground. So it'd be the opposite. You'd be digging down into the ground to assume your curvature.
The bendy cranes is due to what? If you've heard any of the arguments about the sextant, what do you not do unless you want to bring a lot of work on yourself with refraction with the sextant? Where do you take your sighting? Above what degrees from the horizon?
15 or 20 degrees.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. Because anything 0 to 15 or 0 to 20, you're going to have these thermal inversions. You're going to have all kinds of temperature changes, stuff in the air, and it's going to make the star just like the bendy crane. So that's why they say, well, why even hassle with that? Just go above here where it's very stable. I've read you the citation. It's so stable that 1 minute of arc would equal about 1 nautical mile. You go below that, you're hitting the bigger numbers, and you're just going to be tossing and turning, trying to figure it out when you just need an exact coordinates at sea.
Okay.
It's just...
Thank you, that's perfect. But however, I just want to point out that the Black Swan argument is about the horizon. right? If the Earth is a sphere, radius 3959, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance to the horizon in the black swan image is beyond the geometric limitations of a sphere Earth radius 3959. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve and the Earth is not a sphere. Now, anybody hear any mention of cranes in there?
Hell no.
No.
Thank you for
The
addressing
Glober position is that bendy cranes.
Did you just hear what
Right?
Nathan read?
Have you not heard that before?
Sorry, yes, they say, look, there's refraction. And you go, oh, right. So when we're told that we've got a geometric limitation to our view based on radius 3959 and your maths with tangents to it, it's actually refracted, therefore not geometric then. Who cares if you've got bendy cranes? Our argument is about the position of their physically claimed to be Earth curve horizon.
Yeah, it's about, is the horizon geometric? No. That's it, isn't it?
And you want them to say refraction as well.
Earth curve is...
You really do want them to say it.
Earth curve is the geometric horizon. You know, you look in their maths, and it's marked with an X, labelled horizon with a straight line to it. Earth curve is their horizon, and it's geometric by their claim. They bring up their geometry to tell you how much it's physically blocking stuff. And then they what? Tell you that it's actually a refracted non-geometric position that can't be measured to get R, and isn't physically blocking things. So what were the boats and buildings blocked by? Refraction was blocking them. So not Earth curve then?
Well, it couldn't be Earth curve because apparently the geometric horizon only exists in the math.
My response to that, we only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve maths is physical and is geometric. It isn't the horizon that we experience in reality. The horizon is not Earth curve.
Would it help anyone if I made the assertion, the actual positive claim that starts this entire argument that a Glober would make?
Yes, that would be helpful.
The assertion is that we live on something with geometry, and you can measure that geometry by measuring a dip angle to the horizon and using a tangent to that point to derive a radius, assuming the Earth is a sphere.
What's a tangent?
The tangent is a straight line to a right triangle.
And what's a tangent point?
The point where that straight line meets the sphere.
And the point where that's straight, that's not refracted. Refracted means deviated from straight. So to be geometric, as per the Earth curve claim, you need a straight line to Earth curve. That's the tangent point. And what's that labelled as? It'd be labelled as horizon in your geometric maths with its straight line to it. So the moment that line's bent, what's that? Refracted, deviated from straight, you've no longer got a geometric claim anymore. So no more physical blockages to boats and buildings.
Well, if Al-Biruni used any Euclidean geometry, then technically there was no way that he could do what he claimed to do, as that does not have anything to do with a spherical.
I just thought of something, because humans are dumb, but not that dumb. But let me elucidate what I mean. So Al-Biruni is said to have done this, but we all say if he existed, obviously because there's no primary sources for his existence. Or so that being said, when did the radius actually come into being? Because wouldn't have people figured out that the horizon isn't Earth measured or geometric?
That's what's happening now. That's what's happening now. Stacey, hot mic.
No, that's what I'm saying. But we needed 3959 to say that. So I'm wondering when exactly that came into play.
based on primary sources.
In terms of when it was first asserted, we can only go by what they tell us, but in terms of when it's first measured, that's Al-Biruni. So that's what we focus on. When's it claimed to be physically actualized? That would be measured in physical terms. That's Al-Biruni. So prior to that, were they saying it's a sphere? Yeah, they say it's been claimed to be a sphere for all eternity, basically, don't they? We've always known, is what they claim. So if you want to peg that down, you're on a wild goose chase. When's it measured? And I want, if he is willing, John to repeat exactly what he said before because of the significance and importance I want to lay to it upon repetition. You still there, Father of the Stolen Child, aka refracted curvature?
Yeah, I'd just like to say real quick that if you don't measure it, it's not real.
And measure it is Earth curve. Earth curve being their claim to be horizon geometric in their claim.
Hey, John, can you tell us what kept you as a glober? You've said it once before, or a few times before. You held on to a glober because of what?
I thought I was measuring something. I thought I was making a measurement to, the geometry of Earth.
And what made you realize that you weren't?
Because it can't be refracted. It's a constant in the mathematics. That's what the R is it's supposed to be a constant.
Indeed. Set in stone, both physically and metaphorically, if you believe you're standing on a sphere. Radius, 3959, of the rock that you stood upon, and a lot of other things are derived thereafter. Now, if you can't physically attain that through measurement, then how have you got that value? The answer is, you haven't. So every subsequent argument, or prior argument before the Black Swan, that claim to have a starting point of a sphere by begging the question, totally unjustifiable I might add, but that's what they did. We know it's a sphere. How do you know? Because we've got a radius value of 3959. Here it is in our maths. The math says physical obstruction at the horizon. Horizon's Earth curve blocking things. Right? Well, that started with an assumption of the R value. Well, where'd you get it? That's what I'm asking you at the moment, isn't it, Fundies, and all your chat? R question mark? Where'd you get it? Because you didn't measure it. But that's where your story begins. That hasn't changed, right? It's not like they're altering the storybooks with a claim to be measured dip angle to it. That it is a physical Earth curve edge horizon that we've debunked with the Black Swan. Now, John's story starts with him going, we can measure Earth as a sphere, therefore it's perfectly justifiable to say I'm on a sphere. Until you can't, then it's not.
I'd just like to say that the answer John gave is not 100% correct, or as correct as it could be. The answer is actually honesty and acceptance. That's what changed the whole thing.
On a what?
He could see this honesty and acceptance, because he could see the same exact proof and be not honest about it and not accept it and just be the same as the rest of the anti-flat earthers.
I was going to say that because John doesn't have pride. So when it came to reality, he faced reality.
Everyone has pride. It's just a road you pick. Do I want to skirt the road of the hill I've just rolled down, which was a road that is littered with people in pain? Or do I want to veer off that road and just realise that I don't know a lot of the things I thought I did? Why skirt the hill and tell everyone that it's still a sphere in the vain hope that you can scramble back up the hill to ignorance? You can't. Once you're here, and I'm sorry to say this to a lot of people, I mean globers that have only just recently realised what's going on around them and suddenly become anti-flat earthers without realising it and fighting for it. I'll give you an example, right? Pat Brittenden. And dragged into this, and suddenly he's an anti-flat earther without even realising it. Yeah? Neutral my ass, he's just made a video about Antarctica. Anyway, that aside, he's suddenly rolled down the hill. I bet he didn't want to. He was in blissful ignorance. Based on his attitude, he was like, yeah, we already know. This is laughable. Yeah, and you're like, yeah, but what you don't appreciate is just by having this conversation and being in this arena, you're rapidly rolling down that hill now, aren't you? And now what are you doing at the bottom? Telling us how anti-flat earthers have got a misconception about Antarctica? Yeah, that sounds very much like you're at the bottom of the hill, hoping to climb back up to ignorance. You're never going to get there. Unfortunately, it's just a very littered, horrible, nasty, swampy-ridden, filthy cesspit at the bottom of that hill. Now, like I say, you can skirt that hill forever, or you can wander off into the green pastures of not unfortunately knowing what everything is anymore. But it's a lot happier. Well, I assume it is from my perspective, it certainly is. I hope John will now back me up with that.
Oh yeah, there's some wonder to reality now.
Perfect word.
Hey, Nathan, I've got some slides of mastery I'd like to go over.
Okie dokie.
We could start with the cone-shaped flagpole circle of equal altitude.
The angle on top of a sphere with true altitude and observed altitude. Is that the one?
No, keep going down till you see a blue slide that says circle of equal altitude, and it's got a yellow flagpole with one circle.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so the Black Swan in Jan 2020, when I heard it, I instantly got it with QE because I called him up to verify just in case I didn't get it. But after he explained it to me in a private call, I said, oh my gosh, this opens up a huge door. So that's when, because I was into boating, I realized the sextant could now coming to the argument. So that's when I started the research on the sextant beyond the novelty of it that I knew at the time. So let's see what the sextant does to bring the ballers back to the Black Swan, because that's the whole point. Let's go. Circle of equal altitude. That flagpole, or you can call it the sun, is directly over a spot on the Earth. And it creates a circle of equal altitude. Anyone on that circle has the same degree distance to the GP, the geographical position, the altitude, the zenith, the 90. These are all synonymous. When they say altitude, that means 90 degrees, folks. Zenith, that means altitude. They all mean directly over a spot on the Earth. Go to the next slide. The next slide shows how their Muppet vision wants to tell you how this works on the ball. Well, you can see they got the true horizon there on their Muppet vision. Then they got the visible horizon. Well, we all know there's only one horizon, but then they'll have 3 or 4 more, as we've seen. And Mitchell does a great job on his latest video on the sextant about how many horizons they use. But you can see here that they have that zero line going out under the true horizon. And that star would have to be over the position 90 degrees on that straight line. But they've got it pointing towards the O over here. So this is a lie. This whole thing is a lie right here. Let's go to the next slide. A circle of equal altitude is position circles from GP. You have to go from the GP to U. So position circle of true altitude, the intercept, which is what you got to figure out, and the position circle of calculated altitude, okay? What's that thing in the middle? Oh, radii of circles of equal altitude. Is a radius line straight or curved? Someone, please.
Straight.
Thank you. So that means that GP, which is, this is an overview. So this is a top level view looking down. So you're looking down on the Earth here on this picture. And you're directly, let's say you're the sun and you're directly over that, that plus sign. That is 90 degrees. Now you need a radius to the sailor with the sextant, which is somewhere on that circle. And that radius is straight. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide shows that key part of celestial navigation superimposed on a, well, here's a 2-dimensional circle, but they want you to think it's a globe. This is an impossibility, this picture, but this is from their side to trick the navigators. So there's GP1 and GP2. Where they cross in 2 places is where the navigator has to be. He's either on the top part or the lower part. But when you take 3 sidings, then all 3 circles of equal altitudes cross at one point, and that's your fix. Now think about this. That GP1 could be 5,000 miles from the radius to you, and the 10,000 mile diameter that has to be flat. GP2 and GP3 must observe that as well. So all that is flat, but they've got you thinking it works on a ball. Next slide. Let's go to their address book. It's called the Nautical Almanac. Is a publication describing the positions of selection of celestial bodies for the purpose of enabling navigators to use celestial navigation to determine the position of their ship while at sea. The almanac specifies for each whole hour of the year the position on the Earth's surface in declination and Greenwich hour angle, at which the sun, moon, and planets and first point of Aries is directly overhead. The positions of 57 selected stars are specified relative to the first point of Aries. Folks, it's a death blow. The Nautical Almanac is an address book of 90-degree relationship of a star, the 64 navigational stars that you use with a sextant. And the radius line from the GP to wherever you are has to be straight. The black swan is saying what? The sextant is blowing right through that stupid refraction argument that the Globers use and going right to the GP. And all of that has to be straight. I'm done.
Awesome. Great presentation. Getting slicker and slicker.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
As we have a moment of silence for the death of the globe.
Yeah, Brian.
Okay. I had to have that moment. The diagram with all the different horizons in it, is that not the craziest heap of nonsense ever? I mean, the visible horizon, like they just use the fact that your oil line is making parallel with the ocean, right? The ocean is a one flat line, and the oil line is another flat line. That's why they have the horizon dip correction for sextants of the deck of a boat, and they then take this what they call a visible horizon, and they bring it down as a tangent to their sphere, and it's going off down like below your feet. Like it can't go below your feet. That's the whole point. As in, if you're when I say below your feet, sorry, it can't go below the sea level. Whereas where would sea level be? You know, I'm not really saying much about this. It's just total nonsense. All these different horizons. It's just there's one horizon. That's it. You know, you can say there's an oil line horizon. Sorry, go on, thanks.
I was just going to ask you, isn't the horizon defined as the visible demarcation between land and sky?
Yeah, and there's only one of them.
So visible. So then calling an already visible point visible again is redundant, right? Because it's defined as visible. So saying visible horizon is just saying like the visible place where the land meets the sky.
It gets worse. They say we see the apparent
we
horizon.
See the visible.
Yeah, we see seeing it.
Get the papers.
Would anybody be able to present me with a painting where the painter painted the true horizon? You know? It's ridiculous.
I'll say it again. We only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is physical and geometric. It requires it to be a tangent point with a straight line to it in order to derive our values and give you claims of physical geometric obstructions at the Earth curve horizon. The horizon is not Earth curve. We've only got one, and it's not your geometric one.
You see, when I even evoke standard refraction, right? I'm echoing. When they evoke standard refraction, right, so it's an apparent, they won't get a tangent point to that geometric horizon, so they don't have the radius.
Correct.
If I have to say it again for clarity, the GP of a star, which radius to you is 3,000 miles, is a straight line. It doesn't matter optically what your eyes are telling you. For the sextant to work, you have an angle measurement to a luminary in the sky, which the book tells you where it's exactly over at 90-degree relationship to the surface of the Earth. That's a perpendicular relationship, which means from the GP to you, that's it. It's one straight line. It doesn't matter, refraction, no refraction, because your eyes can only go, what, 3 miles, 4 miles, and the higher you go, maybe more. But you're on the deck of a ship, maybe 10, 15 feet if it's a private sailboat, 40, 50 feet if it's a big old ship. You have to minus that footage, as Brian said, to get to sea level. Once you minus it, the sextant puts you within a half a mile to a mile of the GP of the star. That is impossible if it's curving away from you. And radius lines don't curve. End of story.
Yeah, when you do the horizon dip correction, you're stopping things being optical and you're making it geometric then. You're making it physical because you're putting that line onto the surface of the water below the boat. So it's not a case of you think you're looking in a straight line. It's that you are putting that vertex onto the surface of the water below the boat to make sure the base of that vertex is running along in a straight line along a straight horizontal plane, a physical horizontal plane. There is no refraction involved in that part because you are taking all refraction and everything else out of the equation by putting what has to be a straight line that could stretch for hundreds and thousands of miles straight out towards the horizon and past. You're putting that onto the surface of the Earth. So that's the horizon dip correction takes away all optics out of the
Just expand on what Brian said. So if you're taking the measurement and this circle of equal altitude diagram from any of these positions, so let's just pick one. It doesn't have to be any particular one, but we'll say this one on the left. If you're on a boat and you're taking the measurement from a tower, so let's just say it's up here approximately. I'm going to shout out Ben in a second for his super chat. Thank you very much indeed. Then you've got to correct by a height adjustment, also called dip correction. Don't quite know why, but there we go. It's called dip correction, but it's a height adjustment so that the position that you're actually measuring your angle from is actually taken down to the deck. So it's basically a height correction so that you can get it with this straight line, which is where Brian's statement about it not including and can't include refraction is totally correct, because this is a straight line. It's going to meet the GP at 90 degrees. It must, for this calculation to function. In other words, from your feet to the GP of the star must be a flat, straight line to do this. Can't be any other way. Now, it skews the measurement if you take it from here because you're slightly above the deck. Or up here if you're in an aeroplane. Same thing applies. You've got to take it by way of an adjustment to the deck so that you can have an actual straight line meeting the GP on the ground at 90 degrees at this position in this diagram. So that's what Brian's explaining.
So if your GP to the star is like, let's say 2,000 miles away, that 2,000 miles local?
Well, that, if you want to call it local or otherwise, means that you've got a straight flat line between your feet when corrections are made for how high you are above the ground to wherever that star is located. So it's a flat straight line, 2,000 miles in radius. So you've got a massive area of flat land that you're dealing with at that point. For it to work, it must be that way. therefore Earth's flat. This is a great flat Earth proof. It's also a great globe killer because it can't be done if the ground's curved. Because if the ground's curved, where are you going to get the straight line from? Where are you going to get the 90 degree from? You're not. The answer is it can't be done on a curved surface. Earth can't be curved. This wouldn't work. Has to be flat and is, by the way it's functioning.
Yeah, by the sheer fact that the Nautical Almanac gives you the GP, which is the address of the star when it's at zenith over Earth, is telling you, you can relabel that book to this. It's the 90-degree book. It's a 90-degree book. The whole almanac is about 90 degrees. It's about altitude, which is 90 degrees. So when they say don't say 90, it's over for them because they're running away from the truth here. The book only tells you where that star is when it's directly overhead. It doesn't tell you where that star is at an angle. You're the one at an angle looking at it, but you need to know where it is exactly over the Earth. So the whole book is an address of stars with a perpendicular relationship to you. And what is a perpendicular? A right angle?
Nobody wants to answer in case it's rhetorical. I'm going to do a shout out to Ben White at this point because it's perfectly pertinent to what you've just stated. The sextant destroys the globe religion. Thank you, 10th Man and everyone else on this show for all your hard work. Yet another proof for flat Earth. Add this one to the long, ever-growing list. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Ben White.
Yeah, I mean, you have two zeniths going on for your first angle, right? You have your zenith as the observer, and you have the zenith of the star, right? Those zeniths have to be parallel to each other for this to work, because you're making a 90-degree angle with the water beneath your boat, and the almanac is making a 90-degree angle with the surface of the Earth beneath at the GP of the celestial body, the star or sun, whatever. So that's two 90-degree angles. So those don't work. I sent you a diagram there recently, Nathan. I had in a video, and I show we have two 90-degree angles on trying to put them onto a curved surface. You end up they're like swords crossing. Though that doesn't work. There's not swords crossing. That line at the bottom, you're making basically a box. So you have a zenith, your zenith, which is one side of the box. You have the star zenith, which is the other side of the box. You have the line underneath that is meeting between the both of you. That's the base of the box. And then you can draw a line along the top of the box, and that will be the top of the box. And then you'll have your angle from your position to where the star is. And and your angle then you can bring it up and down the side of the box, whichever. But the point is that you have two 90-degree angles that have the same baseline, the same base. So that base is not like two different bases like swords crossing. It's one base that both of them are connected to.
Right.
One straight.
I'll unchop it. So just because I've got it on screen. So what Brian's been describing is a straight line that runs from this star in this example to the ground, and then a flat line running to your position. Now, if I was to add a second star at this point where it says meridian over here, and say I'm going to use that as the second point to triangulate, the same principle applies. This star that I'm now inventing on this line is going to have a straight line to the ground. Now that line is going to run parallel with the line that runs from the star that's actually shown as being measured. So we've got a straight line here, and Brian described a straight line for the zenith of the gentleman in this example. And over here we draw another straight line out to the GP of this star. And all three lines, i.e. the straight line that's coming down to the ground, which is flat, meeting his position, the straight line that comes down for his zenith that meets the ground, and that line that goes out to the GP of this star, flat, all are parallel. Now, if you're doing it on a curved surface, Brian describes that as some crossing like swords, they can't, don't, and are assumed not to be in order for this to work. They're all parallel. You've got streamers dangling down, or plumb lines dangling down from every star that's capable of utilisation for triangulation. Therefore, all of them are running parallel with one another and must be for this to work.
Nathan, I got your two favorite slides in Master B that you can use to really show what you just said.
S1 with line of position, is that the one you mean?
Yeah, you can start with that one, then the second one will show S1, S2, S3, but I hand it over to you.
Well, this is describing exactly what I've just tried to invent with mouse drawing on things that aren't there. So each of these lines are shown and are parallel. So you'd also have one that Brian was describing as the zenith at the position where this is showing the fix. You'd have a straight line that ran parallel to the other three that are depicted in this diagram for S1, S2 and S3. So a straight flat area. All of these circles drawn out have a radius. Why? Well, because you've got a straight line to the centre from your position, and you're getting it from the GP in the almanac, where it says that star is located over the ground. So each of these circles represent a massive, potentially massive area of flat land. Must be for this to be acquired. This box represents 90 degrees. They've all got 90 degrees, although you can't see S3, because they're all parallel. Therefore, not curving away from one another. That is not possible. This is a globe-destroying flat Earth proof.
Yeah, anyone can take a football, right, or a basketball, and take two protractors and put them onto the basketball at 2 different points, and see if the bases of those protractors meet in the middle exactly. They won't. They'll cross like 2 swords in free space. You can't have that. It's impossible.
Right. Hold on, just one second. Harold, Jay, did you want to add something? No, just scrambled to get the mute button on. No worries.
So the ballers would have to then believe that the almanac is a book filled with curved 90-degree angles for it to have to work on a ball.
I don't know preemptively what an anti-flat earther is going to make of this. I have no idea. In the first couple of examples of people attempting to address it, they've said, well, yeah, we've got to take a straight, flat measurement, but I think they're only doing that so they can assume it's flat.
Chocolate, it's about to get worse, Chocolate, because what they will do is say, we got a 90, it's at the center of the Earth. There's our central angle. We take our measurements from the center of the Earth. That's how we get the same corresponding angle. And then we say, oh, that's interesting. The sailor on the ship with a sextant in his hand is measuring from the center of the Earth. You want me to believe that heap pile of garbage? Well, the sun rays are coming in parallel, so we could assume a sphere, and we could assume parallel sunlight rays, and then we can assume that what he's doing on top could also happen from the center. That's a lot of assumptions you got there. Number one, sunlight is divergent. It's not parallel, so you're gone there. Number two, the sailor's got the tool in his hand on the surface of the Earth, and that's where the measurement is being documented, not no imaginary assumption that you live on a sphere, and the only place on the 2-dimensional circle, by the way, that 2 lines can meet is at the center. But you're actually using a sextant that works on the surface of a flat plane and transposing it to a 2-dimensional circle and saying, see, as long as we get the sun rays coming in parallel, as long as we assume we're on the sphere, oh, by the way, don't pay attention to the black swan. We don't need that geometric horizon. They're so gone.
Tank, you don't know about the 2021 sextant that's got a center of the Earth mode? So you just flick the switch and
so no angle then, right? 2 straight lines for an angle?
No. It also in center of the Earth mode, it changes angles, requiring two parallel line or two perpendicular lines to curved lines. It's great. Does everything, man. It's the 2021 section.
Have you guys heard the rebuttal where they say that the globe earthers claim that because it's locally flat, they can use that flat base, and that it's only on larger scales that it curves and then would become inconvenient for the sextant. So for small local measurements,
what about if
they say
hang on. So the GP that's 3,000 miles away, is that local?
Well, they haven't defined locally flat, so you'd need to get an actual measurement of what locally flat is, or an actual amount. Like, is it 15 miles of absolutely flat? Is it 2 miles of absolutely flat? Is it 1,000 miles of absolutely flat? So locally flat means nothing. That means I'm pre-assuming a sphere and putting a tangent plane onto it and pretending that I can work with in reality and still think I live on a sphere.
Yeah, using flat, assuming tangent, meaning tangent to the physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Geometric in nature, straight, not refracted. That's the tangent bit when they say tangent plane. But then, it's okay because I've assumed first that we're on a sphere. Now I'm going to go forth and do everything flat because it is actually a plane I'm going to be measuring and dealing with. And I'll justify it by saying, no, tangent plane, assumed to be on a spherical surface flat plane. Therefore, that's all cool, right? Well, no, not really. You're actually dealing with a flat plane then. And we're showing that when you do that in terms of triangulation, it's tens of thousands of square miles. That's all considered flat. Yeah, that means it's flat. Doesn't mean that your presupposition of a tangent to the plane, flat surface that you're actually going to deal with means anything. Just means that you've got a fundamentalist religious presupposition that stands before anything that you do, even if what you're going to do involves it being flat. You'll still assume it's a sphere, Fundy. Just a quick shout out to Flat Earther. He says, it's a fact that we are one beautiful family in the centre of the universe on a non-rotating flat Earth. Thank you, Nathan Oakley, for destroying the globe zombie animal mind. And then a thanks. Thank you very much indeed, Flat Earther, for the super chat. I really do appreciate your support.
Hey, I've got a...
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Darwin.
Right. I just got back. So the thing about locally flat is it should be asked, when you say locally flat, do you mean actually flat, or are you just taking it as flat? Because if it's actually flat, that's going to have some geometric consequences in the whole geometry of the globe. So if it is literally locally flat, then where's the corners?
Right, your point for me to ask people to stay tuned if they're watching on a premiere to say that if it's flat, you're going to have some geometric problems to face. Yeah, I'd definitely agree with that, Arwin. But on that note, I am going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!